Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another Kano Tryharding Modern. Now, I've stayed away from this long enough, and people have informed me that it is now, in fact, good to play Tron again. I don't know if that's the case, and what I have here is a kind of Franken list. Now, the main deck I left untouched. So yes, there are 3 surgical extractions in this Tron list, which I find distressing, but you never know. Maybe that's good. We'll find out. But the sideboard I took from a different recent 5.0 Tron list than the original sideboard from this deck, because it was playing a 4 Force of Vigors or 3 Force of Vigors, and I didn't have them. I only have 2, and they're now $50 a piece on Moto. I thought they were too expensive at like 15 or 20, and they have more than doubled. And it was also playing 2 Endurance out of the sideboard as Grave Hate. Now, Endurance is a $70 card, of which I own none. So I will not be playing Tron at full power anytime soon, unless you guys really want to buy me some Tron stuff, which I don't expect anybody to do, but Patreon links in the description below if you change your mind. I'm kidding. I do not expect anybody to buy me overexpensive, free cards, staples from Modern Horizons 2. I think those cards are incredibly overcosted. I really hope they get reprinted soon. I hope that we don't have the Force of Negation situation all over again, which still hasn't been remedied to my knowledge. Force of Negation still incredibly expensive because it was only printed in Modern Horizons 1, at least on Moto. So, anyway, that's enough of that. Let's talk about some Tron. Now, I'm not convinced of a lot of choices in this deck, but I also do not know what it is like to play Tron in the current metagame. Now, I've played Tron a lot. A lot of people have argued I'm very good at Tron. I know what I'm doing. I personally have been under the impression that Tron has been very bad in the current metagame because everybody's running Alpine Moon out of the sideboard to kill Saga, and Alpine Moon happens to be pretty good against Tron when the game's over before turn 3. But the most interesting and concerning thing I find with these lists are, now we're only running 2 basics because basic lands are not as important, especially, so if your opponent's playing Alpine Moon, you're going to have green mana. Not a lot of people are playing Blood Moon, so you don't need that many basics, and there's not a lot of Ghost Quarter Field of Ruin running around because you cannot afford the tempo loss of losing a land versus any deck in the current metagame. So nobody's playing Ghost Quarter. That is a plus to playing Tron. And nobody's playing Field of Ruin except maybe Mill. And we have Kozilek in the main deck, and we have an Emrakul in the side. So hopefully we can be fine against Mill, because there's actually a pretty unreasonable number of Mill players running around right now. But the 17 land count has me a little concerned. Normally, all the Tron decks I've played at least 18 lands, sometimes 19, depending. And 17 seems a little concerning. Now, Yavimaya is the new addition to Tron that everybody's playing. Turns all your lands into basic forests, so it lets your Urza's Mines and Towers and Power Plants and Sanctum of Ugin, Blast Zone, and Yavimaya itself tap for green. So this kind of accounts for the reduction in the number of forests. It just gives you as much green mana as you need, provided, of course, you don't need to tap your lands for multiple colorless. I'm not sure this is good. When I first saw this, my initial thought was like, well, then you lose harder to Ghost Quarter, or you lose really hard to Blood Moon. But almost no one's playing Blood Moon. There was a couple of Jeskai control lists I saw playing Blood Moon. But of course, like, there's no free win red deck, and everybody's playing Alpine Moon as their non-basic land of hate of choice. So, the mana base has me concerned. The triple surgical extraction in the main deck. I saw this and I was like, there's no way this isn't a meme. But, like, this list 5-0'd, so it's either really good or someone knows how to troll super hard with surgical extraction. My hedge is, it's probably really good versus the Delirium deck versus any deck that's trying to buy back Mishra's Baubles or whatnot. Being able to shut off Delirium, being able to counter Snapcaster, being able to shut off Lurrus's best pick, that kind of a thing for free could be important. It's also decent versus opposing surgical extraction. So, like, if you get Stone Rained and your opponent from whatever reason, like Fulminator Mage, and your opponent wants to surgically extract your land, you can surgical your own card out of the grave and just take the one out of the grave to fizzle their surgical So there is like some merit to playing a card like this. The Phyrexian mana versus aggro is a little bit concerning, but pretty standard full 16 1-drops that Tron usually plays. In the 2-drop slot, we have the Sylvan Scryings, and interestingly enough, Warping Whale, which is not usually played in green Tron. Usually Dismember is your spell of choice for trying to kill stuff, but with the amount of life loss and quick life loss that you have versus aggro, Dismember is a little bit too risky to play, even if you're playing Nurturing Peatlands to try and offset the cost by paying 1 life instead of 2 life, and just paying an extra mana. The other thing is, Warping Whale happens to kill a lot of threats in the current metagame. There's a lot of 1 toughness threats, like Ragavan's a 1 toughness threat, Dragon's Rage Channeler is a 1 toughness threat. The prowess creatures have 1 power as long as their opponent can't cast a spell that turn, which they usually can, but depending on the situation, it might be able to kill them, which is important. This can kill Urza, this can kill a lot of stuff, and the exile can matter a lot, especially because we're talking about Delirium and whatnot. So being able to kill a creature without actually putting it in the grave is kind of important because of all the Delirium decks that are running around. The other mode that I foresee being used a lot, the counter target sorcery spell, which should never have been printed on a colorless spell, by the way, but since it's there, we can use it. Countering some heavy sorceries could be good. And then the top end is pretty normal. 4 Karn Great Creator, 4 Karn Liberated, 2 Wormcoil versus aggro, 2 All Is Dust versus anything that's playing colors. Ugin is sort of backup threat plus backup All Is Dust. The Exile versus the Sacrifice is important. And then, 2 Ulamogs and a Kozilek at the top end. And so then we'll talk about the sideboard. So the sideboard, now we have an Artifact Wishboard for Karn. So we have Chalice of the Void, which is important versus decks like Cascade. It's important versus, you can play it against Hammer Time, technically. I would probably put this in the main deck if I was going to play against that deck. It's difficult to set this on 1 because we play 16 1-mana spells, and that would really hurt. So you're almost exclusively, if you're playing Chalice and Greentron, you're going to drop it on 0. We have Tormod's Crypt as our free Grave Hate of choice. It is sorcery speed. It is, I think, worse than Endurance, because Endurance is instant speed and can target either player, and it shuffles those cards back in. So versus Mill, you can Endurance yourself and then, shuffle all those cards back in. But we have Emrakul for that scenario, so we need offensive Grave Hate. I think you could also play Ravenous Trap, although Ravenous Trap is a little bit risky because while there are a lot of graveyard decks running around, there are not a lot of graveyard decks that dump a bunch of cards in the grave all in the same turn. Generally, they're trying to put 1 or 2 cards in the grave until they assemble a Delirium. Walking Ballista is a threat that's wishable, basically. Grafdigger's Cage, additional hate for graveyard decks. Decks playing Snapcaster. Not 100% sure what else this is for right now, but it's always a good card to have in the utility. It's the only card that really does what it does, especially for so cheap. We have Trinisphere, which is very nice versus the Cascade deck, versus any other deck that is trying to cast a lot of spells in 1 turn. A lot of decks trying to play free spells. You play a Trinisphere, you play a Liquid Metal Coating, you start blowing up lands, and the game's over. Oblivion Stone is just a wishable board wipe, effectively. You can keep some of your threats alive if this sticks around for multiple turns, and sometimes that's relevant, though that's only occasionally, it's not generally relevant. We have Ensnaring Bridge to protect ourselves versus aggro. This card is a lot worse right now, because there's a lot of artifact destruction. We have got Liquid Metal Coating, of course, for the combo with Karn, and we have Sundering Titan. Sundering Titan, just hopefully we wish for it. We basically destroy all of our opponent's lands. It does have a combo with Yavimaya, so if your opponent's not playing forests, you can play Yavimaya, then your opponent's lands are also forests, and so if they're an Izzet deck, you can hit an island, a forest, and a mountain, and you don't have to destroy any of your own lands. We have Veil of Summer versus Mill, Control, and any other deck playing counter spells or Hand Hate. I never really like bringing in Veil versus Hand Hate and Tron, but there are some situations where you want to. I'm still on the fence about it. I do not like doing it. It's really good when you're on the play versus a deck that's playing Hand Hate and you happen to have a green land in your opener, which seems minimally useful in this one because we're not playing that many green lands. We have Wilt as what should be a 3rd Force of Vigor, but like I said, 50 ticket card, don't have any tickets. And then I have 2 Force of Vigors and an Emrakul. So Alright, that's 10 minutes worth of talking, so I will see you guys in round 1. Alright, welcome to round 1, everybody. We're on the draw, and I think this hand is a mulligan. This hand is a lot better. I will keep this one, and I'm going to put back... I don't know if I trust the top deck luck. I think I'm going to put back Chromatic Star. I was thinking Karn Liberated or Warping Whale, but... Alright, so... The only problem is I can't play Chromatic Star on turn 1, which leads me to play Ancient Stirrings. Ooh, no more lands. We'll take Expedition Map. Pass the turn. Opponent plays an island. Passes. We draw Warping Whale. Play an Urza's Mine. Sylvan Scrying. I expect this to get countered. Alright, no counter. Get Power Plant. Pass the turn. So this is probably an Ice Fang. Yep. Okay. Opponent untaps. Alright, so we untap, we draw Ulamog, play a Power Plant, play an Expedition Map. Okay, opponent's going to crack a Misty Rainforest, get an island, they are going to Growth Spiral, put a land into play, untapped, so they got a counterspell 2. Or not. They're going to Cling to Dust our Sylvan Scrying, that's fine. Okay, opponent shocks a Breeding Pool, goes to combat. Attacks for 1. Let's go get a tower. Untap. We draw Ancient Stirrings. Play a tower. Ancient Stirrings. Let's get another tower. Play Karn. This one's gonna get countered. Or maybe not. Growth Spiral. Opponent puts a land into play. They crack Polluted Delta. Breeding Pool tapped. Have like an Archmage's Charm or a counterspell. Okay. That makes sense. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a land. Get in for 1. We go to 17. Untap. We get an Expedition Map. So, play map. I really want to wait a turn and go get Ugin's Sanctum, or Sanctum of Ugin, and just leave up Warping Whales, rather than just Windmill Slam Ulamog, because that gives us a little bit of inevitability. So opponent is going to cycle a great big Shark Typhoon. Okay, well we can at least exile the snake. Opponent gets to draw. They untap. They go to combat, attack for 5. We take 5 and go to 12. Stop on their end step. Let's go get Sanctum of Ugin. Untap. We draw Karn. Play Sanctum. Play Ulamog. Exile their black mana and Shark Typhoon, or the shark from the Shark Typhoon. We are gonna sack Sanctum, and we're gonna go get another Ulamog. Okay, opponent makes another shark. We resolve an Ulamog. Kind of unfortunate we had to tap that way because we can't leave up Warping Whale, so if our opponent can bounce this... I mean, if they bounce this, they're actually in trouble, but... Opponent attacks for 5, we take 5. Opponent draws a card. We untap. Draw Chromatic Star. So, go to combat. Attack for 10, which they can block with an Indestructible Squirrel, but the damage really isn't what we're looking for here. We're just trying to exile our opponent's deck. They have Fatal Pushes, Drown in the Locks, Counterspells, Subtlety, Archmage's Charm. Play Blast Zone. Cast another Ulamog. Exile Toski and the Squirrel. Or Toski and the Shark. Okay. Keep the new one. Pass the turn. Opponent Growth Spirals. Puts a Polluted Delta into play. Cracks Polluted Delta. Gets a Watery Grave. Untaps. They draw. They Growth Spiral again. I didn't see any Cryptics. So they might have... Alright, they just scoop. They can't beat Ulamog. Good to know. Okay, let me look up my opponent... Oop, wrong button. Let me look up my opponent's list. Is there a Simic Icefang Quaddle running around, or a Sultai one? There is currently no reported Sultai list. They're all banned. So it looks like my opponent's just playing a Sultai control list. If that's the case, I think I want the Veils. I may actually still want the Surgicals. I think All Is Dust is going to be bad versus this opponent. I'm probably going to want the Force of Vigor. Warping Whale really only hits the snake. They don't cast a lot of sorceries. So maybe we just drop the Warping Whales, bring in the Force of Vigors and the Wilt. And we'll try it like this. If nothing else, bringing in Veil is another green mana source we can pitch to Force of Vigor if we need to. I could have brought in Emrakul. Not 100% on that yet. No lands, no lands, no lands. Mulligan to 3 cards, or keep 4 of these. We're going to 3. Alright. I see 3 cards that I like. I mean, when you're playing 17 lands, that's bound to happen. Lead on Power Plant, pass the turn. Really hoping to draw mine. Opponent plays a Chalice on 1. Okay. Play Tower. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Misty, fetches Misty. Shocks a Watery Grave. If this is an Ashiok, I think my opponent's going to be sad. Shatter Assumptions. Target opponent reveals their hand and discards all colorless non-land cards. Okay. Hey, what do you know? We would have had Tron. Pass the turn. Well, now we just need to draw a threat. Good old Mulligan to 3 to counter your opponent's Mind Twist. That's actually fantastic. Pass the turn. Opponent's like, oh, he's going to keep a hand, and on turn 3 I'm going to make him discard everything. Well, it's simple. Just keep a hand that has nothing to discard. Alright, opponent shocks a Breeding Pool, gets us for 1. We untap. We draw Kozilek, which we are 1 mana away from casting. Opponent flashes in an Ice Fang. You got it. You know, at least their clock isn't fast. Opponent hits us for 2. We draw Sylvan Scrying. Pass the turn. Cycling another... nope, they're drawing cards off Archmage's Charm. That's fair. Opponent plays the land, hits us for 2. Still not drawing land number 5. Pass the turn. Opponent Growth Spirals. Opponent shocks Breeding Pool, Snapcaster Mage's Archmage's Charm. Draws more cards. I mean, like, Chalice against us is good, but it's not the end of everything, especially not if we natural Tron. Alright, there's a Karn Liberated, which, as bad as it is at least a spell we can cast. Subtlety. That can target Planeswalker spells? I didn't know that. I thought it was only creatures. Of course, I don't play with Subtlety, so I don't actually know. And that's mainly because I don't play decks that require it. I'm actually going to bottom this. So the problem is Kozilek doesn't actually do anything if we cast him. Like, he draws us cards, which might get us a threat, but I think we're on a 2-turn clock or less. Okay. That's fine. Well, when you mulligan to 3, stuff happens. Do we change it up? I think we have to run it the way it is, even with all of the 1-drops, against the Chalice, just because, like, we have nothing else to bring in that's better. Alright, this is turn 3 Tron with 2 threats. Play Power Plant, play Expedition Map. Pass the turn. Opponent shocks Watery Grave. Thoughtseize. So they can take a Karn. We untap and draw Forest. Play Tower. I'm actually going to go and fetch mine right away. Opponent plays a Snow-Covered Island. We draw Chromatic Star. Yep, no reason not to do this. Okay. Play Star. Just in case the opponent has a Chalice. Pass the turn. If we draw an Ulamog, I think this is game over. But it's got to be an Ulamog. Opponent shatters Assumptions, making us discard no cards. We draw Force of Vigor. Okay, sack for green. Surgical. Play Tower. I'm going to Surgical Counterspell on their draw step. So they're holding Flusterstorm, Shark Typhoon, Shatter Assumptions, Snapcaster Mage. None of those cards are particularly dangerous for us. We have to be aware of Flusterstorm. Hang on. Open up Paint. Get a copy of my opponent's hand over here. Because, what's its face? Surgical doesn't reveal. So opponent plays their land, which we knew about. We untap. We draw Sylvan Scrying. Play a Forest. Go Scrying. We will get Sanctum. Pass the turn. Opponent cycles Shark Typhoon. Makes a 2-2. They untap. So they're still holding Flusterstorm, Shatter Assumption, Snapcaster, and 2 unknowns. I'm going to place Chalice on 1, which does slow us down for Chromatic Sphere-related reasons. But I mean, like, we can Force of Vigor. Okay, opponent throws out a Tempo Snapcaster. This is fine. Opponent untaps and draws. Plays a Breeding Pool tapped. They hit us for 4, we go to 12. We draw Surgical. Play a Forest. I guess we do try and Force now. Opponent has Drown in the lock. I cannot Surgical myself to remove enough cards. And I can't Surgical anyway because of Chalice. Okay, pass the turn. So I think they're holding Shatter Assumptions and Flusterstorm. Unless that's the Shatter Assumptions they cast, I've already lost track. I think that is the Shatter Assumptions they cast. So they're holding Flusterstorm, and that's what we know about. They Shatter Assumptions, and we discard Chromatic Sphere. They play a land, and they're holding Flusterstorm. They hit us for 4, so we have a few turns to draw anything. Karn counts as anything. Okay, so play Karn. Sack Sanctum. And we're going to get a Worm Coil because we can play it immediately. Flusterstorm only counters instants and sorceries. Play Worm Coil. Do I uptick Karn? Oh, they can't even Flusterstorm because of Chalice. No, I think downtick is correct here. So opponent untaps and scoops. What we got there versus Sultai Control. They even had the Tron tech and we just beat them. Alright, well, I'll see you guys in round 2. Alright, we're on the draw for round 2 versus a Lurrus deck. I think we can do better. This might count. Yeah, we'll try it. I'm going to put back Sanctum of Ugin. Opponent leads on a Blood Crypt into a Thoughtseize. So there goes Chromatic Star. I mean, unless they want to take Worm Coil Engine. That might be reasonable too, but most opponents in that position take the star like that. Players is mine, pass the turn. Here's where our opponent dashes Ragavan. Alright, they shock a Watery Grave and pass. Players is tower, pass the turn. So one thing Tron has going for it is it's very difficult to drown in the lock Tron spells. Opponent plays Bloodstained Mire, cracks it, shocks a Blood Crypt, puts Lurrus into their hand, sacks Dress Down, and draws off Bauble. Play an Urza's Mine. Pass the turn. I would really like to draw a Power Plant. Opponent exiles Kozilek. That's the other thing, is it's good against Ragavan, because like how the heck are they going to cast your actual action spells? Opponent plays Lurrus, replays Bauble, picks up Ragavan. They bauble us. We draw Sylvan Scrying. Play Blast Zone, which I will sack to kill Ragavan. If they dash him during combat. Opponent goes to combat. Hits us for 3. I guess I could tick up Blast Zone to kill Lurrus. Don't think I'm going to do that, though. Opponent plays Dragon's Rage Channeler and Expressive Iterations. And all we need is a Sphere, a Star, a Forest, a Power Plant. What is that, like 11 cards in our deck would be good? Death Shadow is a problem, which my opponent would only just replay the instant I kill it. So we're going to save Blast Zone at least to use like a Fog. There's a Sphere. So play Sphere. Oh, you know what? I think I have to draw Power Plant. I don't think I can tutor for it. Yeah, I need to draw Power Plant, and I didn't. Because now I have nothing to deal with what my opponent's doing because of the way that I had to tap for that. So, like, I could have tapped another Tron land, and then even if I tutored for Power Plant, I guess that would have let me leave up Blast Zone. I guess that was a mistake. Well, let's see if our opponent can kill us. They probably can. Opponent cracks Bloodstained Mire, gets a mountain, bolts us. They have 8 damage on board, they have at least 2 in hand, and they only need 2 more, which they can get off of Thoughtseize. We're dead. Yeah, that was a mistake. I could have... No, actually, if I had tapped the... If I tapped the Urza's Mine and the tower to tutor for Power Plant, play Power Plant, I don't have enough mana to activate Blast Zone. So if I had Mine Tower and was Mine Power Plant and was tutoring for Tower, I would have been fine. But the actual order of the Tron lands mattered there more. We also didn't get them for a number of turns. So, versus Lurrus. They have Alpine Moon in the side. And they have actual Blood Moon as well. They're going to bring in Wilt, Force of Vigor, and I guess Veil of Summer. Question is, what am I cutting? I think it's Kozilek, and All Is Dust, and Ulamog. I think one Surgical, and maybe an Ugin, I guess. Like, Ugin is really important because it exiles stuff from the board. It's actually one of our best ways to win, and I really don't want to take it out. It might just be better than All Is Dust, though we might need a board wipe on turn 3. Maybe it's actually... Maybe we take out Warping Whale number 3. Warping Whale does kill a lot, but... I think this works. We'll play first. Okay, this hand does not function, because like a single hand hate spell, and we are going to be so sad. This hand doesn't work either. Natural Tron... Put 2 cards back. Let's see. I guess Blast Zone and... Well, Blast Zone is an answer to Alpine Moon. No, it's got to be Blast Zone Warping Whale here. Play Mine, play Star. Pass the turn. Opponent leads on Steam Vents. Dragon's Rage Channeler. We untap and draw a Forest. Sack Star for green. We get a Mine. Play Stirrings. Get the only threat we have. Play Power Plant, pass the turn. Opponent plays Polluted Delta. Cracks Polluted Delta for a Blood Crypt. Plays another Dragon's Rage Channeler. And Thought Seizes us, taking our Karn. So now we need to top deck a threat. And it feels bad putting back Blast Zone, but still think it was correct. They hit us for 1. Okay, well there's a tutor for Blast Zone. Pass the turn. So I think now if they have Alpine Moon, they have to name Blast Zone. If they have Blood Moon, we're just sad. They hit us for 2. We untap and draw a star. Play Blast Zone, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, they draw. They go to combat. Hit us for 2. We go to 15. Opponent plays Lurrus. Plays Fiery Islet. Okay. There's no sense in cracking Blast Zone just yet. Especially not if my opponent was going to, like, not play the Dragon's Rage Channeler they had the ability to last turn. Play Urza's Tower. Play Chromatic Star. Cycle for green. We get an Ugin. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hope for no Spell Pierce. -3. Really glad we didn't crack Blast Zone. Opponent Unholy Heats, and they are hoping to get Delirium off of 2 looks, which they might be able to. They probably can. If not, they can follow up with a Bolt, potentially. They leave a card on top. Ugin goes to 2. We exile the board, pass the turn. So no more Lurrus to have to worry about. Opponent plays another Dragon's Rage Channeler. So they've played all 4 Dragon's Rage Channelers. They gotta kill Ugin, though, right now. Otherwise, you can just uptick to kill the Dragon's Rage Channeler. Okay. So they kill Ugin, pick up their other Dragon's Rage Channeler. We untap. We draw Warping Whale. Cycle Wilt. Ancient Stirrings. Get Karn. Rest of the bottom. Play a Mine. We're going to play Karn. I guess I could empty my hand, but with them having Kolaghan's Command, it's not as worth it. If I get Karn, I could put Chalice on 1 and then Warping Whale their Dragon's Rage Channeler, which seems pretty good. Even though Chalice on 1 does hurt us. I selected the wrong mode. Oh my god. I can't believe I misclicked like that. Okay, they throw Dragon's Rage Channeler into the Chalice, which gives this guy flying and is just big enough to kill Karn. That's a big deal. Can't believe I made that mistake. Opponent plays Polluted Delta. We untap. We draw Wormcoil Engine. Go to combat. Attack for 1. They go to 10. Play Wormcoil. As long as they don't have Drown in the lock, this is really good. I could have preemptively Blast Zoned so that they don't get a Surveil, but... Okay, opponent shocks a Watery Grave. They had the Drown in the lock. They put a Thoughtseize in the grave. They counter Wormcoil. Okay, I'm gonna blow up their last Dragon's Rage Channeler. I wouldn't have to do this if I had done this right. If If I had selected the correct mode on Warping Wheel like I was supposed to, opponent casts Dress down, creatures lose all abilities. I was going to say, that doesn't stop Dragon's Rage Channeler from dying, I just think they cycle. So as long as they don't have Kolagon's command, like picking up a threat, destroying Chalice, we're fine for a little bit. Okay, Warping Whale is pretty big. Go to combat, hit our opponent for 1. Not sure what 1-mana sorceries they could play. Thoughtseize and Inquisition seem like the only ones. The dash cost casts, right? Yeah, so Ragavan getting dashed throws it into Chalice. Unmoored Ego. I'm going to counter that. So Unmoored Ego is a big problem. We draw another Worm Coil. Go to combat. Because Unmoored Ego can hit Tron lands. So we need to have Veil of Summer at the ready for that, basically. Or Warping Whale. Play Worm Coil, pass the turn. Opponent has 1 turn to figure this out. Expressive Iteration. That does get them deeper, potentially towards an answer. Not sure what they have that answers a board like this through a Chalice, but I don't play their deck. I guess if they have Kolagon's command, they can kill Wormcoil Engine as it attacks. Drown in the lock, okay. So they're going to take 1 here. We get 2 tokens. They go to 3. They untap. Alright. Kind of bumbled into a victory there. We should have had that game. I just messed up. So Warping Whale is actually going to be very important. It's probably more important than a Force of Vigor. I do want the Surgicals in the deck as well. I think I'm going to cut an All Is Dust for them. Okay, this hand does not have an early Veil. We may not even have an Expedition map. I'm expecting my opponent to lead on hand hate, so I think that hand is bad. This hand, however, is great. So we're going to put back Power Plant. So 2 Thoughtseizes is bad. My opponent having an Unmoored Ego before we draw a Warping Whale would be bad. Alpine Moon, if we draw Green Source, we can handle. Opponent kept 7. Opponent plays a Bloodstained Mire, fetches. Shocks Blood Crypt. Thoughtseize. Okay. They can take whatever they want. Opponent is taking quite a long time to resolve this Thoughtseize. Okay. Play Mine, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Bloodstained Mire, they crack it. They get a Watery Grave. They dash Ragavan, hitting us for 1, exiling our Blast Zone. That's annoying. They play Dragon's Rage Channeler, we untap, we draw a Tower. So I'm going to play a Tower, pass the turn. Opponent can Unmoored Ego, Power Plant, but I mean this way we would at least hit turn or 3rd land drop, I guess, for playing Karn Great Creator. Opponent's going to dash Ragavan again. They go to combat. Attack us for 3. Take 3, opponent gets a treasure, they exile Sylvan Scrying. They play a Bloodstained Mire. Opponent could cast a Sylvan Scrying here, if they wanted to. They're cracking Bloodstained Mire. They're shocking Esteem Vents. And they're playing Kroxa. So they have 2 unknown cards in their hand, and they're going to be picking Ragavan back up. So Kroxa enters the battlefield, it gets sacrificed. We discard Ancient Stirrings. Untap. We draw Surgical. Get Surgical the Bloodstained Mire. Let's Surgical the Kroxa and see what's going on in their hand. They're holding Kroxa, Drown in the Lock, Ragavan. So Drown in the Lock and Ragavan, huh? Play Power Plant. Play Karn. Downtick Karn. Get Chalice. Put Chalice on 1. Which I know is risky. If my opponent can get to Delirium off of 1 card, I guess that's pretty good. They attack Karn for 1, he goes to 2. We untap. Draw Chromatic Sphere. Play Tower. Cash in Karn. Let's go get a Sundering Titan. Play Sundering Titan. Can't drown that. The lock's not deep enough. Game's over. We got there. Tron's looking pretty good so far, I gotta say. Warping Whale seems like a really good card. I'll see you guys in round 3. Alright. Round 3, we're against the Elemental deck, I think, is the only deck that plays Kahira. We do not have a Torpor Orb in the side. Yeah, so this is the 5-color Elemental Ephemerate, which we might struggle against because of their propensity of casting Fulminator Mage. We'll see. So opponent mulligan to 6. We drew natural Tron. Amazing. Play Power Plant Star. Opponent cracks Misty, probably at a Triome or a Stomping Ground. Don't have any real good Wishboard targets for our opponent's deck, I guess. Opponent puts a Risen Reef on top of their deck. Play an Urza's Mine. Sack Star for green. We draw Surgical. Alright, pass the turn. Stop on my opponent's draw step. Surgical Misty. Really want to see what's in their hand. Fury, Risen Reef, and Teferi. Fury can deal 4 damage to Planeswalkers. Okay. Opponent cracks Windswept Teeth. Gets a Breeding Pool untapped. They play Cavern on Elemental. They play Risen Reef, which should be our #1 priority to remove. They draw a card, we get hit for 1. We untap and draw Expedition Map. Play Tower. I'm going to go with a Karn downtick to kill Risen Reef. If they can evoke Fury, that's fine. If they play something other than that... Okay, another Risen Reef. We can Ugin, deal with the board. Okay, opponent evokes Fury, exiling Wrenn and 6. They sack Fury, they play a land. So they're holding Teferi and something else. Okay, they play a Utopia Sprawl, they name white. They hit us for 1. We untap and draw Ulamog, which is a fantastic follow-up to all of this. Play Ugin. -3. Play Expedition Map, pass the turn. Opponent plays Teferi, bounces the map, plays a Plains, and plays a Flamekin Harbinger, putting an Omnath Locus of Creation on top of their deck. We untap and draw Sylvan Scrying, kill Teferi, play an Urza's Mine, play Ulamog, and that should be game. Alright. So Sideboard versus the Elementals deck. They are playing Alpine Moon, Chalice, Force of Vigor, Foundation Breaker. So we need Force, Wilt. Let me see, are there any recent ones? Hang on, am I against... I think I'm against Misplaced Ginger. And they have a recent 5-0 list, and their recent 5-0 list has only 9 cards in the sideboard. For a total of 69 cards, including Companion. They do play Engineered Explosives. I don't see any Fulminator Mages in their sideboard or main deck in any of their recent lists that have 5-0'd. So I might regret this, but I'm not going to play around it. So we bring in the 2 forces, we bring in the Wilt, and I'm going to drop... Actually, Surgical's kind of important because they do reanimate from the grave. Let's see, what are they playing in the main deck? Their 1 sorcery is Prismatic Ending, which means Warping Whale is exclusively going to kill like Harbingers and Risen Reefs, which might be important enough. So we're going to drop Kozilek, a Worm Coil, and I guess 1 Surgical, and we'll try it like this. Okay, this hand is a mulligan. I'm pretty sure. I mean, this hand might be able to cast a Wilt eventually, but I think we need to mulligan this one as well. Alright, so we'll put back 2 cards, we'll put back Sphere and Sphere. Opponent did mulligan to 6, they're leading on a Forest, probably Utopia Sprawl. Gonna name red, white, okay. We draw Wilt, that's good. Play Chromatic Star, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Misty, cracks Misty, shocks a Breeding Pool. They play a Risen Reef, they draw a card, we untap. We draw an Ancient Stirrings, cycle Star for green, get a Forest, Ancient Stirrings. So we're either taking the Expedition Map or the Karn. Considering that we have no threat, I'm going to take the Karn. Play Tower, play Sphere, pass the turn. Now, Karn is less good than I would hope. But this might force them to interact with our mana base if they're going to. And then if we know how they're interacting with our mana base, we can kind of plan accordingly. Is this an Omnath? It is an Omnath. Risen Reef trigger. They put a fetch land onto the battlefield, they gain some life, and they draw. Hit us for 1. Okay. I regret taking All Is Dust out of the deck. Sack Star for green. Get a Karn Great Creator. I can Sylvan Scrying now for Power Plant, or I can Ancient Stirrings and try and find Power Plant. If I do, I can play Karn Great Creator, downtick for a 1-drop, of which we have Grafdigger's Cage, Tormod's Crypt. I could wish for Sundering Titan if I hit it that way, and then my backup plan would be playing this Forest and Sylvan Scrying for Power Plant anyway. Okay. Ancient Stirrings. Well, we found Warping Whale. Rest of the bottom. So I think we have to Warping Whale this Risen Reef. Pass the turn. Because this version of the Elemental deck basically relies on that card to make up for all of the card disadvantage for the pitch elementals that it plays. Okay. Opponent plays a Wooded Foothills, cracks it after gaining life. They get a Stomping Ground, add a bunch of mana. They play Fury, nowhere to put its damage. They go to combat, they hit us for 4. We go down to 15. They sack Misty for a Hollowed Fountain. They play a second Omnath, sure. Legend Rule themselves. I think I'm dead. There's a very strong chance that I am dead. So I'm going to take a very odd line. We are going to Sylvan Scrying. We will get Urza's Mine, play Urza's Mine, play Expedition Map, play Karn Great Creator, and animate ourselves a blocker. Pass the turn. I don't think there's any way that Karn survives this, but if he does, we can get Sundering Titan, which is big enough to handle any of their elementals, and also get rid of all of their lands, I think. If they have, obviously, a Fury, that's going to cause a problem. Now, basically, our only top deck is Ugin, I think. So they can hit us for 6, and they can kill Karn. Yeah, if we can top deck Ugin, we can win, but that's basically it. That's our only draw. So they kill Karn, they hit us for 6, take us to 5. We untap. We draw Karn Great Creator. So their last card can't be Foundation Breaker. Go get Bridge. Pass the turn. There's a really good chance we're dead, but this is just our only play. If we can survive even a single turn, we can get Oblivion Stone. They get Muldrifter off the top. Or they put Muldrifter on top. That's interesting. We untap and draw Ulamog. Downtick Karn again. So I can either blow up all of their lands, Forest, Island, Mountain, Plains. Hang on. Forest, Mountain, Plains. I'm going to get greedy. I'm going to get greedy because if I do this, I don't think they can have Foundation Breaker. Play Sundering Titan. I guess if they have Subtlety, this is worse. Okay. Solitude, Forest, Mountain, Island, Plains, Endurance. Okay. Shuffle all my cards back in. So if they're holding Muldrifter, they draw 1 unknown. Oh, they can attack. They can attack because I have 3 cards in hand. How did I miss that? Alright, well, on to game 3. I don't know how I missed having 3 cards in hand. I guess it had to be Oblivion Stone. But you know, run it back. It would have worked if I drew a land that turn. Alright, we'll play first. This is a mulligan. This is keep. And we'll put back Sphere, I think. Play Power Plant, play Map. Pass the turn. Opponent starts tap land. That seems like good news. Play Mine. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Misty. So I'm thinking Subtlety is the only thing we have to worry about. Let's go get Tower. Untap. We draw Wilt. Play Tower. Slam Karn. Karn resolves. Okay. I'm gonna go get Trinisphere. Pass the turn. Is that way, even if they do have an Evoke Elemental that will kill Karn, they have to use all of their mana to do it? They can't, like, play Risen Reef and just evoke a bunch of stuff. Opponent plays Cavern. Did not crack Misty. We untap. Draw Chromatic Star. Place... Oh, wait, that's 3 mana. I get after other Tron players for doing that all the time, and here I am doing it just as much. Sundering Titan gets 1 thing. Do I just get Coding? Titan seems dangerous. Let's go get Coding. Play Coding. Play Power Plant. Pass the turn. So on their upkeep, we're going to shut off the Triome, I think. Maybe shutting off Cavern was more important. They play Cavern, name Elemental. They crack Misty. So if they have a Fury that they need to evoke here, they have to spend all of their mana and exile a card. Foundation Breaker to kill Coding. Okay? Means Trinisphere is still around. We untap and draw Ulamog, and that should be game. So uptick Karn, play Ulamog, take out the Caverns. Alright, that was a lucky top deck, but we got there. Alright, we've already gotten a treasure chest. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is Tron's comeback. See you guys in round 4. You know, it'd be really nice to start on the play. This is a mulligan. Alright, yeah, we'll keep this. Sure. Put back a sphere. We are against a Lurrus deck. We are against Hammer Time, which means we could be dead before the game begins. Lead on Urza's Mine, play Chromatic Star, pass the turn. Now, if it's a slower Hammer Time hand, which I think my opponent mulliganed to 6, actually. They did mulligan to 6. So we know that they do not have the hand. Opponent plays Memnite, plays Pure Steel, plays Ink Moth, plays Shadow Spear, and draws a card. They have 2 cards in hand. They do have Metalcraft. They suit up Pure Steel. We untap, we draw Karn. Sack Star for green. Get another mine, play Tower. Sylvan Scrying. Get Power Plant. Pass the turn. Now we just gotta pray we're not dead to, like, Land Hammer. There's land. Pure Steel number 2. Animates Ink Moth. They go to combat, they hit us for 5. We untap, draw Chromatic Sphere. Play Power Plant. Play Karn. If they have Colossus Hammer, we are dead to them attaching it to Ink Moth, and we are dead to them attaching it to anything other than Ink Moth. Because it's +10/+10, so that would be exactly 16 damage, or it would be 11 infect. So the play here is to take out a Pure Steel. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a second Ink Moth, plays Sigarda's Aid. They equip Pure Steel, put Lurrus in their hand, they kill Karn, hit us for 1. We untap, draw map. Now I could go and get Blast Zone. Blast Zone on 1 does keep us alive. I could alternatively play Karn, uptick to take out Lurrus, or downtick to take out Pure Steel. Blast Zone is the only safe play. Because anything else, they draw Hammer, we lose. Play Blast Zone, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, they draw. Opponent goes to combat, attacks us for 4. We take 4 and go to 11. They play Lurrus. Okay? On their end step, blow up all 1-drops. Untap. We draw Sylvan Scrying. So we lead on Chromatic Sphere. Cycle it to add green. We get Surgical. That changes things, I think. Because that means we can play this mine, play a Karn, nuke Pure Steel, Surgical Aid, which they had in their hand, and I guess I could have done on their draw step. Now they only have 2 Pure Steels left to equip stuff, so they're going to have to win with Saga or Damage. And we're going to be following this up with a Wormcoil Engine, and we're losing Karn this turn. So we should be okay. In theory. We draw like any good Haymaker here and it's game over. Opponent replays Springleaf Drum. Plays Stoneforge Mystic. It's a Cranial Plating. They can play Cranial Plating this turn. That is concerning because they can attach that to Ink Moth. Okay. That was probably their best top deck. We untap. We draw Ancient Stirrings. Cycle for green. Ugin does not quite do it. It's good. We can downtick it for 3 to take out Lurrus and Stoneforge. The problem is still that plating. I can Ancient Stirrings and still cast Ugin if I want. Let's get a redundant tower. Rest of the bottom. Now the question is, they have up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 artifacts. So they can equip Cranial Plating to an Ink Moth to do 6 damage via Infect. It might actually be better for me to play Wormcoil this turn. I didn't just take the wrong thing off Ancient Stirrings, did I? Not that I could have cast Kozilek or anything like that. Hang on a minute. If I play Ugin, and I -3 him... Oh, they would do more damage because they could replay Shadow Spear next turn unless I play Ugin. But if I play Ugin and I minus him to take out these 2, they could actually equip Memnite, animate, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage, take us to 2. Then we could play Wormcoil after that. And unless they draw something that makes 2 artifacts or another equipment that they could somehow play, Ugin works just fine. So play Ugin. We do have to minus, we can't plus. Play Tower, pass the turn. The problem is we're dead to Inkmoth and 2 swings. We basically have to top deck Ulamog. If opponent takes a turn off to kill Ugin, that's actually fine. They play another Memnite. So they have to make the choice of attacking us, and whether to attack with infect damage or regular damage, or attacking Ugin. They animate Inkmoth, they animate Inkmoth. So they're going to hit us to 9 infect. That means our only out is Ulamog. If they don't kill Ugin. If they take a turn off to kill Ugin, then we, in theory, have another turn, but... Okay. They hit us to 9 infect. We need Ulamog. Does Karn do anything? Karn means they can't equip, and we can get Walking Ballista to clear the board? That works. Uptick to kill a Memnite. Pass the turn. What a top deck. I did not think about that. I think even if my opponent has an Apostle's Blessing, we can ping twice. So, opponent plays a Horizon Canopy, they cycle it, and the game is over. Tron take it down Hammer Time. That's not something you see often. And generally, I think Hammer Time, at least pre-board, is going to be a bad matchup. Keeping the Surgicals in for sure. Same with Warping Whales. We're going to bring in Force of Vigors and Wilt. We're going to cut Kozilek. We're going to cut all his dust. And we're going to run it like this, I think. Could bring in Chalice. Dropping Chalice on 0 might actually be reasonable. I think it's better as a Wishboard target. It's only good if we're on the play, too, and it's in our opener, really. At any other point, it's better off in our sideboard. Well, we have a Warping Whale. 2/3 of Tron. A very slow Tron hand, but we have Karn. Let's see if our opponent mulligans. I am probably mulliganing. They kept 7. I'm going to mulligan. I got to mulligan again. Can I go to 4? Probably. Alright. So put back Ulamog, put back Ulamog, put back mine. And we have a hand. Not a great hand, but a hand. Opponent plays Silent Clearing Memnite. Giver. We untap, draw Chromatic Star, play mine, play star. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays an Urza's Saga, then plays a Stoneforge Mystic, getting a Colossus Hammer. They hit us for 2. We untap, we draw Karn. We gotta wilt the Saga immediately. Pass the turn. If they don't have another land or a way to equip Hammer, like if they have like land aid Hammer, it's over. Second Saga? Are you kidding me? Alright. Well, we tried. Pithing Needle. I don't think you can Pithing Needle Chromatic Star because it's a mana ability. They Pithing Needle Walking Ballista, that makes sense. They play out a Hammer. We take damage, untap, we draw Scrying. Cycle for green, get more information. We get a map. Sylvan Scrying, let's get Power Plant. Play Power Plant, and play map. Pass the turn. Now if they have another white source Pure Steel Paladins, game's over. There's another white source. There's a Memnite. They hit us for 3. Sure. We untap and we draw Ancient Stirrings. Would Karn Liberated actually do anything here? I can get Blast Zone, but it doesn't do anything. Opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 artifacts. I think I need the Stirrings. I just don't know what I can hit. There's a Great Creator. Okay, get Great Creator. Rest of the bottom. Let's go map for Tower, just in case. Play Tower. We have Warping Whale. The question is, do we hit a Memnite, or do we hit this Giver? If we hit a Memnite, then they only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 artifacts. We'd get hit for 7. Then we might be able to wish for Bridge. Okay, yeah, I've been convinced. Still a really good chance we die. I could wish for O-Stone, but actually, no, I can't. I've locked myself into going for Bridge. Provided, of course, we're not dead. So they pay all their mana to make another construct. I guess they could get a second Pithing Needle and Pithing Needle Karn Great Creator. Springleaf Drum. Inkmoth. They have one final card in hand that they're actually casting. Second Hammer. So we're taking 10 and going to 2. I can wish for Ensnaring Bridge and play it, and then we die to one power creatures. Yeah, I don't have enough mana to wish for Oblivion Stone. Walking Ballista's been Pithing Needled. I can wish for Bridge, and I can play Bridge, but then I still have a Karn Liberated in my hand. Alright, yep. A lot closer than I thought it would have been, but still a loss. Alright, run it back for game 3 will be on the play. Alright, we'll play first. When it reveals Lurrus, and this hand is slow. It's not bad, it's just slow. I think we have 6s that are better, and this might be one. Depends on whether or not we draw a green card for force. Our opponent kept 7. Our 5s get significantly worse, but are still playable. I'm going to go to 5. Alright, I like this a lot more. I'm going to put back Karn, and I'm going to put back Forests. Play mine, pass the turn. Really hoping to draw a green card if I don't draw Power Plant. If my opponent starts with a crazy start, I'm really hoping to draw any card that's green. Opponent leads on Plains, Springleaf Drum. We draw Sanctum. Play Tower, pass the turn. If we can top deck Power Plant and land Karn Great Creator early, this game is over. Opponent plays Inkmoth, second Springleaf Drum, Sigarda's Aid. We untap. We draw a Warping Whale. Play Sanctum, pass the turn. If they try and sneak a hammer onto Inkmoth, we do have Warping Whale to kill it, as the hammer's being equipped. They play Esper Sentinel. They play Saga. They animate Inkmoth. They go to combat. They attack. No blocks. They go to equip the hammer. We exile. Pay for Sentinel. Sigarda's Aid fizzles. Okay, we either need to draw a 4th land or a green card. So we can either Warping Whale to make a token, and then maybe cast Karn next turn, or we can Warping Whale to kill Esper Sentinel right now, stopping our opponent from drawing an additional card, meaning that they may not have the mana to make a token, giving us another draw at a green card or a land. And it does matter whether we do this on our turn or our opponent's turn because of the Springleaf Drum mana situation. If we drew a green card this turn, we could blow up Saga and blow up Esper Sentinel, or even better, blow up Saga and blow up Sigarda's Aid, and then our opponent is really stuck. I think we've got to go for the Sentinel. We got to do it now. Because Sentinel can potentially wield a hammer next turn and cause a huge problem. If we get Yavi Maya even, we could hard cast Force if we wanted to do that. So Saga ticks up, gets its ability. I would really like to kill Saga before it goes to 3. Okay, opponent plays Giver. Because we can kill Saga before it goes to 3. Oh, because if we don't, they're going to equip a hammer. But we draw a map. I don't think I can wish for anything that stops my opponent from attaching a hammer next turn. I could go and get Blast Zone. If I tutor up Blast Zone, I can't do anything else this turn. If I tutor up Power Plant, I can't do anything else either. If I tutor up Blast Zone, my opponent may be forced to Pithing Needle on Blast Zone. And if they go for the hammer play, as long as they don't have 2 hammers, we can take a hit, play Karn, animate the hammer into a 1/1, and the only thing we have to worry about is our opponent's token that they can make in response with the Saga. But if they're doing that, I mean, that means they don't have 2 hammers. And by that I mean another hammer out of hand. They already have one on board. And I guess if they had one, there's no guarantee they would have played it already. We're going to go get Blast Zone. I think it's our best bet. Pass the turn. Okay. Saga goes up to 3. See what they get. Because if they go for the hammer this turn and they don't have a way to outright kill us, we can crack Blast Zone and literally wipe their board. Yes! They went for Pithing Needle. And they got a Pithing Needle Blast Zone. Okay, Pure Steel follow-up is bad, but not the worst thing in the world. If we draw a Power Plant or a green card, this game is over. Because that lets us Karn and blow up all 1-drops. Does Warping Whale cause us to play any differently? So we can play this one of 2 ways. We can play Karn. We can animate this Colossus Hammer, which forces it to fall off of Pure Steel. The only way that fails is if my opponent has an Apostle's Blessing. But even if they do, we can still survive 1 Colossus Hammer hit. And they would have to pre-float mana. Otherwise, we can activate Blast Zone, which gets rid of Sigarda's Aid, Pithing Needle. Oh, no, we can't, because they Pithing Needle Blast Zone, excuse me. I cannot do a Blast Zone play. I don't know why I was thinking. So our play is Karn. More specifically, Karn Uptick. Pass the turn. They only have 1 mana this turn. And they can hit Karn for 4, and they can take him to 2. Really, their best play would be like a top deck hammer. that would be trouble for us. And in theory, we could just do the same thing again next turn. No, because they would have both hammers equipped. So they attack Karn, he goes to 2. They play an Esper Sentinel. We untap. We draw a Forest. Okay, hang on. So we have 5 mana. I cannot wish for a green card, unfortunately. There's no green artifact in my sideboard for the Force Negation pitch. I can wish for Walking Ballista, and I could kill Pure Steel. But if I do that, then I could still be in trouble. I don't have a way to wish for something that would kill Pithing Needle, because I don't have an Engineered Explosives. That would be pretty sick in this situation. Play a Forest. I think we uptick no targets. And if they just swing enough damage at him to kill him, potentially we could Warping Wail to protect him, either by making a 1/1 blocker or by exiling their creature. I'm going to have to play kind of fast here. Once again, if we draw a green card, this game is over. They attack Karn, attack Karn. Okay, Karn's dead. If I Warping Wailed to block, they would just give a creature pro-colorless. Actually, I should have Warping Wailed to block. That was a mistake. I should have Warping Wailed in response there, but I did not. So now my opponent gets to draw a card guaranteed. I'm too eager to click through because I'm in a rush. Stoneforge Mystic. This opponent gonna go and get another hammer. So we got a Warping Wail this Giver of Runes. Opponent draws a card because we can't pay 11. Okay, we untap. We draw Yavi Maya. Play Yavi Maya. That lets us cast Force. Does that matter? It may keep us alive. The problem, once again, is it's that stupid Pithing Needle. Alright, we gotta pass the turn. We're just gonna have to cast Force of Vigor. Then probably untap and Blast Zone. Hoping we stay alive in the process, of course. Okay, they're suiting up to Stoneforge. They get to draw a card. So I did make a critical mistake this game. I let my opponent draw 1 extra card, because what I should have done was Warping Wail that Giver of Runes in response to the hammer equipped to Esper Sentinel. And it's possible that lost me the game. So opponent goes to combat, and they swing with everybody. So we force killing Esper Sentinel and Pithing Needle. Opponent gets to draw because we can't pay 11. I maybe should have targeted the hammer. It doesn't matter in the case of Apostle's Blessing, but it does matter in the case of other creature protection spells. So we get hit for 13 and go to 7. We basically activate Blast Zone immediately. Opponent plays Inkmoth. That is mana number 2 for them. They equip a hammer. They pass. We draw Ugin. That doesn't change anything. So we need to activate Blast Zone now, because otherwise they can just equip at sorcery speed. Okay. Pass the turn. If we can draw the last Tron land, we might be able to Karn Wish for something that matters. They're very far off Metalcraft, but they do have 6 cards in hand. So if they have a bunch of Memnites and Ornithopters and a hammer, we're dead. But I'm pretty sure... Nope, never mind. Okay, they play Plains. They play second Pure Steel. They hit us for 3, we go to 4. Now, if we can land Ugin, if we can draw our last land, that would be perfect. Wormcoil Engine is close, but I think we're dead. Because I can Karn, but I can't wish for anything that matters. They have exactly 5, or they have 5 power. I can't Fog, I've got nothing to animate. God, they've been operating on the Razor's Edge for so long, and we just couldn't draw a Tron land. It's turn 10. And if we had that 6th mana still, we could play Wormcoil. If I had a Chromatic Sphere, I could animate to block. We could survive. Well, we fought hard, but I think we lost. I don't think I'm forgetting anything either. Yep. That was tough. That was real tough. But I'll see you guys in round 5. Alright, finally we're on the play, and I think we will be keeping this. We've got a good chance of drawing Urza's Mine. Opponent mulligans to 6, mulligans to 5. Put 2 cards down. Alright. Power Plant Sphere, go. Opponent plays Scalding Tarn and passes. We draw Ulamog. Cycle for green. Get a Karn. Play Sphere. Cycle for green. Play Star. Pass the turn. Opponent cracks Scalding Tarn. Gets a Steam Vents tapped. They untap. This could be Control. Spire Bluff Canal. Could be Storm. We get a Sylvan Scrying. Sack Star for green. Another Power Plant. There's no censor being played in the current format, so I don't think I'm playing around anything. If I play a land first, we'll Sylvan Scrying. We get Urza's Mine. Play the mine. Now we have Warping Wheel. Opponent plays a Scalding Tarn, cracks it. They get a Mountain. Manamorphose. This is Storm. Well, it doesn't have to be yet. I guess it could be, like, Izzet Tempo. Another Manamorphose, okay. Thought Scours themselves. Demi-Lich. They can cast that for 1. They gut shot us. They can cast it for 0. It's pretty gross, actually. Okay. Second Demi-Lich out of hand. If I Warping Whale making a token, I can cast Ulamog and take out 2 lands. Then I can follow up with Ugin. We draw Karn. You know what? Let's Ulamog their Demi-Liches. Because I don't know how they answer Ulamog. What are you gonna do? Vapor Snag it? I'll recast it. Okay. I'm glad I took that line. I was thinking about it and I was like, that does really seem like the best thing we could be doing. So Demi-Lich is being played in Modern. So they have Dragon's Rage Channeler, Arclight Phoenixes, and Demi-Liches. So this basically Izzet Phoenix. And they just dump as much as they can in the grave, cast as many spells as possible, and then try and beat us. We have 3 main deck Surgicals. I don't even think we adjust, really. Maybe I bring in Veil. Actually, they have Alpine Moon. I'm gonna regret this mightily. I was like, I didn't even look at their... Oh, wait, I didn't look at their sideboard. Kano, you genius. Alright. Alright, turn 3 Tron. Let's go for it. We'll put back Star. If they Alpine Moon me, I'll have green mana. Easy. Alright. Opponent mulligan to 5. Thought Scours themselves, turn 1. You got it. We got a Blast Zone. There's our answer to Alpine Moon. Start Tron land map. Pass the turn. Opponent shocks the Steam Vents. Charts a course. Ditches a Phoenix. We untap and draw a map. Play a tower. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays a Fiery Islet. Manamorphose. So they're going for their big reanimate turn now. Manamorphose number 2. They play Demi-Lich. That's it? Let's go get Urza's Mine. Get Karn liberated. I mean, like, we do that, right? Because if my opponent could have cast another spell last turn, they would have, and that means their follow-up is going to be worse. And even if they have Lightning Bolt to kill Karn, we do have Karn Great Creator. Opponent cracks Arid Mesa, shocks a Steam Vents, hardcast Phoenix, Crackling Drake. Okay. Opponent draws a card. We untap and draw Sylvan Scrying. So they definitely have Shatter Spree to get around Chalice. What do we do? I could wish for Ensnaring Bridge. I could also just down-tick Karn to deal with that. So let's lead on Yavimaya, Ancient Stirrings. Because if we get a second Karn, it's a moot point. And by that I mean Karn liberated. All Is Dust does answer Crackling Drake, and I'm okay with that. And we're doing this all before we do anything with Karn. Because if my opponent had like a Force of Negation or something, we would need to know. Take a card out of their hand. Get Karn out of Bolt and Phoenix range. We get a Fiery Islet. It has me typing in my opponent's time box again. There. Switched back. The old hard cast of Phoenix. Not the greatest plan. Hit Karn down to 4. We draw Power Plant. Play Power Plant. Uptick Karn. Take a card out of their hand. Because we are under no pressure from that Phoenix. They're not going to reanimate their other Phoenixes unless they draw this massive cantrip train. Our best bet is taxing our opponent's hand right now. So, like, the only way that they end up reanimating that Phoenix that they have is if they, like... I mean, if they just go, like, cantrip, cantrip, cantrip. Or cantrip, cantrip, bolt, or something like that. But more likely than that, my opponent has another land in hand, which we're going to see if we exile it. Then my opponent's going to have to cycle Fiery Islet to draw a card, and then the only way that they're going to reanimate that other Phoenix is if they have Lava Dart, Flashback... Demi-Lich. So they only have one card left in hand, huh? I think it's time for an Ensnaring Bridge. My opponent has sent me a message. Opponent says I have no idea how I could win this. This is kind of a tough thing for our opponent to beat. I could go get Trinisphere, but I'm not worried about them multi-spelling right now. We'll go get a Sanctum in case we draw something big and scary. Pass the turn. Opponent Faithless Salvaging. Ditches Demi-Lich. Plays a Scalding Tarn. And scoops. Well... Well. You know, I'm actually really surprised. I thought Tron was bad. I did. I thought Tron was terrible right now. Treasure chest number 1. 15 play points and an Una, Queen of the Fae. Treasure chest number 2. 10 play points, and a Champion of Lampholt. Treasure chest number 3. 5 play points, a Extended Art Silver Quill Silencer, which I don't think is worth anything, and a Oyobi who split the heavens. And treasure chest number 4. 20 play points, and a Lathless Dragon Queen. And final treasure chest number 5. 10 play points, and a Nicol Bolas the Ravager. Remember when that card was good? Alright, you know what? I hate to say it, but, because a lot of people get this misconception. I don't actually enjoy playing Tron. I just know how to play it well enough, and lots of people like to watch it. So, I know a lot of people are gonna cringe, but I guess Kano's back to playing Tron every other day, or every 3 days, or whatever my previous schedule was. Oh, this is not the right list. We did not play a list with Relic, we played this list. That was one of the lists I Frankenstein together. Honestly, Warping Whale seems like a great spell to counter the meta. Mixim and Silver, or Tarek, you guys on stream. There were 3 or 4 people telling me, I apologize if I forgot anybody, but there were 3 or 4 people telling me, Tron's good right now. Look at this Tron list that won. And I was like, there's no way Tron's good. Someone got lucky. I think I proved that wrong. Honestly, this could have been a 5-0 pretty easily. That Hammer Time player that we played against, we really just didn't top deck what we needed for literally 10 turns. That could have gone either way. And we put up a very valiant effort. I think I did the right thing. Honestly, that last wilt that we have should probably be a Force of Vigor. I would not try and play Tron in the modern metagame on Moto without Force of Vigors. If you do, you're probably going to have a bad time, specifically because if you play the traditional Nature's Claim, you're going to run into Chalice. If you play Wilt, it's going to come down. It's going to cost you a lot of mana, basically. And I think Force of Vigor, in some amount, is a necessity. I would not play less than 2, and I would probably play 3 or 4 if I had them. I don't know about the Endurance list. I don't know about the meta utility of that card. I can tell you it'd be great against that Phoenix player, but we are already like curb stomping them. 17 lands felt a little bad. I think we saw that in the Hammer Time matchup. I really want 18. I don't know if it's correct or not to run 17, but the majority of the time it was fine, but it feels a little light to be running a limited number of lands in a constructed format. So, other than that, I don't really have any suggestions for, numbers of cards. I think Surgical was really good versus almost every deck we played against. And I think having it in the main deck, at least in this weird current metagame, is reasonable. It kind of lessens the need for Grave Hate out of the sideboard. I wouldn't cut Grave Hate completely, but I might drop Tormod's Crypt, either to run, if I could find one, a 3rd Force of Vigor, a 2nd Wilt, maybe even a land, honestly. Even like a Darksteel Citadel that I could wish for a land. Or bring into the main deck if I want it. I think that would be reasonable. I don't know about Emrakul. I know it's a hedge against Mill. If we were playing Endurance, we wouldn't need it. Chalice, hilariously, us putting it on 1 mattered a lot. I know I really scuffed the game that I did that, but thankfully we won anyway. We should have won a lot sooner and a lot harder. Like I said, I'm prone to punting. I would not, under any circumstances, put Crucible of Worlds in the sideboard. There are, like I said, if the Elementals deck had been playing Fulminator Mage, we lose. We maybe survive a Stone Rain. With 17 lands, it's a lot tougher. Crucible of Worlds will lose you more games than it wins you. It is actually hurtful to be playing a Crucible of Worlds in the sideboard in Green Tron, especially in the current metagame. But I don't think many decks are going to be running Stone Rains or Fulminator Mages. I think the thing you need to protect yourself from is Unmoored Ego, from the 5-color deck, from Grixis. Running up against Shattered Assumptions, I think, was interesting. In that initial Sultai control list that we ran up against, I don't know how often you're going to run into that, but I don't think it's very good versus us. I can see situations where it would be great, but it only works if your opponent is on the play, and probably only if they Utopia Sprawl it out, or Birds or Noble or something. Playing it on turn 3 on the draw or turn 4 on the play against us, we've already played our threat or dumped everything we needed to dump. I don't know how meta Shattered Assumptions is going to be, so I don't know. I don't really think you need to prepare for that if you're going to be playing in the Moto meta. Obviously, if you need to tune for a local meta, if you're still playing Tron, for anything other than Moto, you're going to need to tweak your sideboard accordingly. If you have a land destruction player who plays, the what is that spell? Demolish. If he's playing Demolish, then you can play Crucible of Worlds with my blessing. Otherwise, I highly recommend against it, simply because it's not going to do what you want it to do. And like, even in the scenario where you're playing against Ponza, right? If you play Crucible, they have Pillage, meaning if they care, they can get rid of your Crucible. Otherwise, if they just have enough land destruction, they'll just destroy a land every turn, and you will never assemble Tron again, even with Crucible. But I saw somebody comment to this recently, and I wanted to mention, hard stance, do not play Crucible, especially in this metagame. I think it's bad. I think it's bad in 95+% scenarios. So, anyway, that's enough of me ranting. I hope you guys enjoyed the return to Tron content. I will be making more Tron content because I know that's what people want to see. Even if that's not necessarily what I want to do, I can still find ways to have fun with it. And I have to start working on an up-to-date Tron list anyway. So, you're all wonderful human beings. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your viewership, and hope to see you guys in the next one. So please leave a comment if I did anything boneheaded that I didn't catch. You can ask me to elaborate on why I did anything, or I'll happily engage. I get to respond to most of my comments with my current comment volume. So yeah. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Hey, just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons for the month of August. You guys are wonderful, and I really appreciate your support. It's been helping me make a lot of good content. If you want your name to show up in this list, there's a link to my Patreon in the description down below if you want to support this channel. Thank you so much.